to Athletics LLC with Lamar, Lucious, Big League Chew, and my man Clyde. You're about to be schooled in all things track and field. This is experience.
Yes, sir.
We are talking past, present, future. Y'all listen up. Let's go.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to another fun episode of Athletics LLC. Too bad you guys weren't here about 5 minutes ago. We were all laughing. So we will never debut a bloopers episode because that's too incriminating. But just know that it's always fun. It's always fun. So let's jumpstart the night and introduce these lovely gentlemen that are here with me on these tiles. We've got Lamar, Rays Win, Huffins, Clyde, and Lucious.
Hello, everyone.
Got it. I love it. I love it. Just in case you forgot, Big League Chew. I figured I haven't done that in a couple of weeks, so let me just throw that one in there too. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe people don't read the bio. But let's jump in the deep end and see what happens. See who sinks, who swims. How important is the setup of the start as well as the start itself in any given race?
I mean, I'll tackle that one. I think, to me, for my 2 cents, for what I trust and believe in, the start, without proper start, what happens down the track never happens. I don't think people understand how important the first 3 meters of a race are and the effect that it has and what happens down the track at 70, 80, 90, and 100 meters. I think too often people don't really think about, when you talk about the setup of the start, the setup of the blocks, putting athletes in the right position so that they can accelerate from the blocks. And we've all been to high school meets and even occasional at a college level where you see an athlete just get in someone else's blocks, and that makes my skin crawl. I think that people don't spend enough time teaching the start. They don't, because it's something that you have to be very patient with. And because it's not something that comes easy, people tend to shy away from it and just, they'll just figure it out. I think start mechanics are something that should be taught from day one. There are different ways to teach the start mechanics, starting, like I believe, starting in the grass, doing stuff from a 3-point stance is what we do in the beginning to just start the actual initial movement and mechanics of the start. So I don't think people understand just how important the start is to anything that you do.
I would co-sign all of that and definitely agree on the skin crawling that I've seen so many ways. And oddly enough, you see that in college sometimes, which is really, really interesting. For me, I don't think you can overstate how crucial the start is to not only the sprint events, but also to, and more importantly, to the hurdle events. It drives me crazy, the mentality that some people have. If you understand how crucial the start is, and you also understand that because it's so technical and involves so many moving parts, that it's going to take a really long time to get it done well, I don't understand the mentality that we're going to, get in quote unquote shape first and address the start later. That doesn't make any sense to me. Things that are technical take longer to fix. You should spend more time working on those things. It doesn't matter if you're a science-based analytics type person and you love that world of things. All that data is out there, and it's been out there for a really long time, of how crucial the start is to everything you do. Or if you're a person whose brain doesn't work that way and you don't want to look at that stuff at all, you should be able to see exactly what Lucious is talking about. Nothing 50 meters in, 60 meters in, 90 meters in is going to go well or nearly as good as it can go if 0 to 10, 0 to 3 isn't done well. And so I don't really understand why people shy away from it. I think what Lucious said is well stated. I think it's a fear of doing something wrong, so we'll just pass it off to later. One thing that has always driven me nuts, and it happens every single year, no matter where I've been working at, the incoming kids, freshmen transfers come in, and all of them do the very lazy action of they set their blocks 2 steps on the left, 3 steps on the right. And I'm like, why? Like, did everybody just come together at the lower levels and decide, hey, this is what we do? Like, and the angles are usually wrong. And it's like no one ever really pays attention to any of that. So for us, we do a lot of grass work as well. I spend a lot of time taking photos of the kids. The first time that they're ever in blocks, I say, you know what, set them any way you want. And I tell them to come to set. I take a photo of them. I make them look at the photo. I'm like, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Tell me why this is impossible with you being in this position. So for me, I use a lot of visual cues, try to have a conversation with them about the changes that need to be made and why. And then we go change them. We change them immediately. And, I just think it's something that absolutely must be addressed. And for all the super nerds out there, as it pertains to the hurdles, for example, the women's hurdle is 13 meters from the start line. At the elite level, you take the meters per second or the time it takes for the 100-meter girls and the 100-meter hurdle girls to get to 10 meters. What you're going to find is the elite women's hurdlers are just as fast, if not faster, than the women running the 100. So if it's that crucial at the elite level, it has to be that crucial at every other level. And there's too much information in 2020 out there for people not to get in this and really understand and take it seriously.
Before you go, Lamar, let me address something when it comes to the hurdles. The hurdles is more of an approach. It's an approach to getting in the right position at step 7 or 8. Because if you're too close or too far away, obviously that's going to lead to issues. So when you're talking about the start of the hurdles, it's more like an approach, like a long jump approach, where you have to be very precise in where you want them at takeoff. So that even further reason why you should do that more and not just assume it's going to happen and magically figure it out. It just doesn't work for it.
Choreographed dance.
Well, I listen. Obviously, I completely agree with all that has been said by my wonderful colleagues. I will go a step further and say it like this. There are multiple parts to a sprint race. The one that is most tough to overcome messing up is the start. If you jack up the transition, there are ways to overcome that. There are physical freaks who can overcome that. If you jack up the end and get tight and Justin Gatlin that thing and try to pull the finish line to you, which I definitely was guilty of a time or two, it will cost you a couple hundredths for sure. But at the end of the day, if step 1 and 2 aren't right, Katie can probably bar the door. And the further that goes, usually if 1 and 2 are bad, 3 and 4 are worse. And the whole, if you've ever driven a stick, when you do it properly, the car just moves seamlessly. When you do it poorly, it's like, and then finally it just like stalls. It doesn't go nowhere, right? That's pretty much what happens when you jack up your start. Your whole system is like, that's not it, right? And so I will say, if the question was simply like, how important is the start and the setup, I think it's essential, because I don't think there's anything more important than what we do than, in a running event than the acceleration portion. Well, if you don't set the start up right, it's really hard to accelerate right. So I don't want to oversimplify, but I'll just say that I think the start is achieving a proper start for yourself and setting up a proper acceleration system for yourself might be the most important thing you do in a sprint race.
I'd like to pose this throw out question to Mr. Lucious, seeing as of all the careers on these tiles, he might have us on sprint performances at big leagues. He might have us. Sir,
just by a little bit.
How many starts in a season would you say is necessary to even have a chance at getting this thing right?
Like, how would I know that answer? Gee, Christmas. Like, all I know is this, is that you can't do too many. You know, I don't count the number of starts that we do. I know you can't do too many.
There is no ceiling.
As long as you're doing them to get better at them, as long as you're teaching them proper things, you can't do too many. But you definitely cannot do enough, you know. And, you know, and I want to address something too when it comes to the start. And I may catch some flack for this. I think the most useless statistic ever when it comes to the start is reaction time.
Amen.
The most useless statistic. I don't understand like why it's a big deal, why we would use it, other than the fact to see if somebody false started or not. But this thing of I gotta have a better reaction time, no. You know, like I've had my athletes go, coach, my reaction time was slower than everybody else's. I'm like, but you won the race.
Yeah, I honestly can't. I don't honestly remember any major 100-meter race that I can remember where the person with the best reaction time actually won the race. I don't remember that.
Me either.
So
I mean, the last time that happened was probably Ben Johnson, and that just happened to be a combination of two things. He was born a great reactor, which Lucious and I talk about this all the time. Reactors are born, right? So he was born a great reactor, and based on what he was doing, he also had become a great sprinter. And so I'll say it like this: like, if you ever want to disprove the idea that you have to be a great reactor, the worst reactor in the history of elite track and field is by far, without question, Allison Felix. She has the slowest reaction time ever recorded by a gold medalist. She was like 0.2. Like that's literally like giving away a step.
And honestly, she didn't give away a step. You know, like
exactly.
You know, it's like
exactly.
She just. And I'm not so sure that sometimes the people that are reacting in the middle there someplace aren't doing something that they should be doing as far as applying forces to the pads. You know, that's just, you know. I think it's the most useless statistics ever.
Reaction time or discussions of athletes or coaches about reaction time irritate me almost as much as coaches and athletes that want to know their 4x1 splits off a stopwatch.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
Let's see, we're not going there tonight.
We can't ever have that conversation because we're gonna piss a lot of high school kids and coaches off.
Yeah.
Stop sending them in the emails. We don't care.
Yep.
Oh my God. Amen. And tabernacle.
So when as it pertains to the start, everyone out there listening, you know, I ask my athletes this, you know, as part of the teaching process. You know, I always ask them, what is the number one attribute that you need to be a great starter? Great reaction time, great this, great that. It's patience. Patience. Having the patience, you know, to put your mindset as to when I hear the gun is going to start me on my progression down the track. And if I don't take care of the first 3 meters of the race, it gets real bad down the track somewhere. Real bad. But having the patience to execute. Patience is the number one skill you need to be a great starter.
To that point, the coaches as well need to have that patience. It's real tempting to want to have practices beyond 3 steps out of a block. But I tell mine all the time, like, hey, we're not going down there until this part is right. So you may as well get used to it, because we're not running 20s. We're not running 30s. We're not running none of that. Why would we? Why would I want to watch a 30 when you can't do 3, when you can't do 5? Like, it takes a lot of patience. Absolutely.
You know, it's funny. You guys both mentioned something that I think is an incredible tool that people just miss out on. Like 3-point starts, especially 3-point starts on the grass. because usually we don't coach the crap out of them, their bodies do what they're supposed to do naturally. But there's so many novice coaches that never film that. And I chuckle to myself. I'm like, if you want to see what your kid's body really wants to do, watch them do a 3-point, film it. Like, that's what their body wants to do without anybody telling them what to do. And if you do it naturally, that's going to be the best thing. So now if you start with, hey, this is what it looks like when we do 3-point. How do we get you there from the blocks? Like, that's the question, right? It's not the, hey, I got this, and I got this intricate system on how I teach the start. Okay, so now this kid's like got 6 centimeter longer major trochanter than you've ever coached in your entire life. So all your little numbers that you've got locked in don't work. Or you get these oddball kids, right? That I was one of them. Really, really long legs and really, really long arms. All the status quo math doesn't work. Right? So it's like all these people with these systems, I'm like, man, see what they do naturally and then figure out how to maximize that.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done. Literally, your emails are going to be blowing up. What are you talking about?
It's what's funny is like, and these two will definitely like co-sign to this. Like, there are arguments that go on at the international level about the start that are just as asinine as some conversations you have with like a novice high school coach. So at the end of the day, like, look, you're not going to force somebody to get what it is you're trying to get them to give them. They got to figure it out themselves. And you keep trying to force that, that circular peg into that triangular hole if you want to. But at the end of the day, I don't look at who were the best starters of all time. I look at who were the best sprinters of all time and work it backwards. Because I'm not trying to win the 0 to 30. I'm trying to have the best 0 to 30 to set up the best 40 to 60, which sets up the best 60 to 100.
And I'm going to say that I am not in the business of developing great starters. I am in the business of developing great accelerators.
Facts.
Difference.
Huge difference. Huge difference.
I hope everybody heard that. Has nothing to do with your start, or not nothing. I shouldn't say nothing.
No, please don't.
The emphasis. The emphasis is on the acceleration, not on the start.
Not on the reaction. Yep.
Right.
Never the reaction.
Never the reaction.
I mean, there was 2 echoes. Had to be something there, right?
Right.
All right. Let's shift this a little bit and talk a little more about those races that we were just referring to. How often should collegiate athletes be competing during a competitive season? Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? We don't have enough months in the year for collegiate season, but what are we thinking here?
And like for me, I'm an every other week guy. Occasionally we'll go back-to-back weeks, but not very often. I'm a guy that thinks that training is paramount, that's important that we identify things in a competition and then we go back and we work on them before we compete again. So that's why I set things up the way I do. And I just think that sometimes people want to use the competitions to get their athletes in shape. And that's fine because it works for some people. But for me, it's not just about getting them in shape, it's about teaching. And I don't think you can teach when you meet every weekend. So I'm a believer that every other week works for me and what we do. And that way I can get my teaching done.
This is a very layered question. In the NCAA world, a lot of our scheduling, unfortunately, is dictated by other things other than what we would actually want to do from a competitive standpoint, especially at the smaller schools where budgets and access to meets is almost never in your hands. So I think I would agree that every other week for me has always kind of been my best possible world, but rarely in my career in the NCAA have I been able to actually pull that off. And so what I try to do with that in mind is structure the events or the event load week to week to be very, very different. For example, there's always a meet during my outdoor season that I call opposite weekend. If you run the 100, or you're going to run the quarter that weekend. If you run the quarter, you're going to get a chance to sprint for real. Like, there's always something like that. And I find it's because I find that having the kids run their primary events week after week after week is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for injury, and it gets boring. And so, you know, whether you do it with relays, whether you do it with different individual events, I try to mix it up with the kids. But having up until my current job, having only worked at very small mid-major schools, I almost never had a say so in, you know, what weekend we were gonna or not going to compete. It was always like, hey, this is the schedule we have access to. So we got to go run. We got to get our 14 plus counters on the track. Somebody got to run something. So that's where I started, you know, mixing it up. When you have the luxury of being able to do what you want to do, you can structure it any way you see fit. But every other week, I think it works as well. And to Lucious's point, in that example, if I know it's a weekend that I don't really care about, Saturday just so happens to be practice with uniforms. We are going to be training, working on a specific skill. I may tell my 100-meter person, like, look, I really care about what happens between 40 and 80 meters in this race. I don't care about the rest of it this week. Or maybe the hurdlers, I'm looking at hurdles 1 through 5 this week. Whatever happens, happens after that. But I want to see these things in this parts of the race. That's kind of how I've taken an approach to handling those issues.
Well, for me, I'll say this, like, to kind of push it out further on Lucious's every other week. What I've found has worked best is kind of an extrapolation of that, right? So if I go 2 weeks in a row, then we get 2 weeks off in a row. If we go 3 weeks in a row, and God, those are horrible, right? Then
Yes,
we gotta then we gotta go 1 week where we do almost nothing, and then 2 weeks where we train. So it almost ends up being 3 to 3, 2 to 2, 1 to 1. But I will say this as a caveat, and I'll go to my grave with this one. The more talented and the more experienced the athlete, the less they need to compete and the more they need to train. The more talented, collegiately, post-collegiate is a whole nother deal because you have to have races for sharpness. Like, I get that. But collegiately, I think the more talented you have, the more talented athlete you have, and definitely the more talented and experienced athlete you have, the later you can open them up, the more you can open them up once, go get a mark, and then go back in the hole and work for 3 weeks. Like, you got all kinds of things that you can really work on. I think your younger athletes and your lesser talented or normal talented people, I've always felt like you have to kind of build a season, right? So it's like, I'm trying to do it so that the marks build for the most part. The progressions are such that, because a lot of it is what happens up here mentally. The more talented athlete you have, like, look, they can go out and put out a stinker and that will have nothing to do with what happens 3 weeks from now because they're not concerned, right? And so for me, I guess I just feel like, for one, you got to know your horse. You got to know who you're dealing with. And not everybody should have the same competitive schedule. I think a lot of people mess that up. Like, the whole sprint group goes every other week. Like, okay, that can't be right because everybody can't be the same, right? But I kind of feel like, as a general template, I agree with Lucious that every other week is probably best if I was going to start somewhere. But then beyond that, I definitely think that there's, like, some of the best people I've ever coached, they ran like twice prior to NCAA indoors, meaning like 2 regular meets, conference and indoors, and outdoors, like the first week of outdoors, like to get your regional, and then they don't compete again for like a month because we had things we had to get done, training wise. So I guess that's my take on it. I think the biggest thing, if I was going to make sure somebody took something away from what I was saying, is like, it can't be the same for everybody. There's no chance. unless every kid in your group came in at the exact same, like if they're all juniors and they've all had, they all had identical careers, sure. But since that's not the case ever, I just think it's not the same for everybody.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I mean, especially if you're at the, D1, D2 level, D2, you have, straight up the list. There's no region for D2. D1, you have your top 48, and you can pretty much project from an event. Like if you're 1 through 20, you're good. Like there's not going to be a whole bunch of people coming in at the conference weekend to knock you all the way out of the top 48. So when I had a kid that was good enough to do that, that was always our conversation. Like, listen, once you're in this good spot that we know you're going to advance, we're going to go back to work. We can chill. Maybe you still might have to go to this meet on Saturday, but we're going to run the 4x1 and sit down. Like, you got to map it out in a way that makes sense for each individual kid. Absolutely.
I think the one thing that I want to make sure everyone hears that was said is that this is in the ideal situation when you have everything line up, things are happy-go-lucky. Not, I don't want to say happy-go-lucky, but everything lines up for you. You have regular practices, you don't have COVID, you don't have all these things. Because even in COVID, I mean, it may look the same because you have a higher caliber athlete. But even then, so sometimes, things look different just because they look different, because everybody missed outdoor last year and they couldn't get into the summer. So maybe it changes, maybe it doesn't. But when things are set up correctly, I guess, or in an ideal world, I guess is something that I want to make sure everybody hears, because that's what I heard from all three tiles in different ways. So thank you for that input. Speaking of COVID, no, I did not mean that segue to happen like that. When will we see the effects of COVID from the shutdown? So will we see effects happen as early as indoor, or will they linger and hold off until outdoor competition?
Let me jump in. I want to go first. I've fought this one a lot. This is one of those things I've thought about a bunch, like just in my wondering, like, I wonder how this is going to play out. I think that I think there's going to be a fair number of collegiate athletes that peter out as we go through the season, because they've been dying to practice and dying to compete. And I think they're going to burn the iron as hot as humanly possible during the run up for indoors or the indoor situation. And I think emotionally and physically, they're not going to have the basis to continue that on like a normal transitional year. And I feel like there's going to be a fair number of people who put together regional qualifying situations that show up at regionals and they're done. My own personal opinion, I think that there's going to be some folks that just burn it up early because they're just so excited to be doing what they're doing. And I think there's coaches that are going to start skipping steps and just, we got to go compete. We got to go compete because we don't know how much of the season we're going to have. I think there's going to be a lot of that happens.
That last part that you just said is exactly where I intended to go with this. I think because people's competition schedules are going to be so touch and go from week to week, and people's travel restrictions are going to be so varied throughout the country, I think there's a lot of room for panic, and I think panic always ends up bad for the kids. It's probably going to be one of the hardest years as a coach or as a program to be patient, but patience is exactly what is needed in this thing that we are all getting ready to embark on. I'm still on the page that if there's an indoor season, and I think that's a 50-50 proposition, I don't think that there's any shot that indoor looks even or fair across the board, coast to coast. So I think indoor is going to be a big just random kind of situation depending on where your school is located and what you have access to. So I think the smarter people are going to navigate that well. And I think the people that are desperate to compete and panic are going to handle it poorly. And I absolutely believe that could lead to a big jump up in performances and a flat die off at the end. I also think it's probably the season, this season approaching more than any other season is a huge injury risk for a lot of kids.
Oh my God, yes.
And so I think you'll see a lot of blown tires. I think you'll see a lot of, people just not ready to meet the starter when you absolutely need to. And the crazy thing about that is it's going to expose a lot of coaches. It's going to expose a lot of people that get away with nonsense because of the talent of their kids. And so I think, this will be a very interesting year to watch. And I think the best people will do what they always do, which is handle it well. But it's going to be interesting for sure, one way or the other.
Well, let me be the fly in the ointment, and I totally disagree with both of them. I totally disagree. I think that you're going to see some special things this year. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how this all turns out. Because for me, I'm not so much worried about the whole injury thing, because we rested for 6 weeks, and we were able to stay away from it and rest mentally and physically. Everybody, athletes and coaches as well. And I think that because there won't be as many opportunities, there'll be less competitions, or there'll be less stressful competitions, because you won't have the meets where you'll have 20 and 30 teams. There'll be smaller competitions, so you won't have the stressors that you usually have in those competitions, that people will be able to manage those a lot better. I don't think that, there'll be some injuries. There's injuries every year. That's no different than any other situation, but I don't think there's going to be this rash of injuries. I don't really expect that you're going to see a big crash of any kind. I think that the athletes are hungry. And I think that for the most part, I know there's just some areas of the country that haven't been able to train as much as they usually are. But I don't think that's been a widespread thing across the country. Most everybody was able to get to work at some point in time during September, October. And I'm not looking for this to be some kind of catastrophe. I think that it's going to turn out a lot better than people think it's going to turn out. And I think you're going to see some performances that are going to be shocking to people, because a lot of athletes got a chance to rest, and a lot of coaches got a chance to clear their minds and hopefully do a better job with their planning because they had more time.
Well, we definitely know some of these teams are stacked because of the extra season that a lot of these programs, that everybody got. So I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on that. I don't think the top end performances are going to fall off. I think they're going to be, set up to maybe be, faster than ever in a lot of events. But you're the optimist. You've always been the optimist. So
I'm the old guy. Remember
that. Well, I'll say this, and look, and I'm not poking fun at you, but I will say this, right? Like, we just talked about the fact that we think that the better coaches are going to shine through this, and some of the more average or lesser experienced, I don't want to diss anybody, are going to struggle with this. So clearly you're in the forefront of that, right?
This isn't about me though, sir. But go ahead.
No, I know it's not about you, but what I'm saying is the category that you're in, if I was in that same category, I would feel very confident about how this season was going to go.
See, okay. And my comments aren't based on my feeling about just me. I'm taking my comments based on what you guys are saying. And even based on what you guys are saying and predicting or may think might happen, I just think the opposite of it, because I don't think that it's not like people aren't getting to train at all. Right? It's not like everybody's okay, you can't start training till December, you got to compete in January. Even if you couldn't start until October, you still have 3 months to get ready. Right?
So to this point, so this is kind of what I was meaning by the angle that I was taking. So let's say we're talking about a mid-major Division I program, you know, pretty limited resources, limited budget, and they have maybe one or two meets on their schedule every year that they know, like, hey, listen, this is our opportunity to go get some marks against some top end competition. Florida relays, that's our opportunity to go and mix it up with people that we don't get to race. Usually we're gonna go down there, we're gonna put these numbers up, get on our list, elevate ourselves. But this year there is no Florida relays for them because their school has restricted their travel, their school has cut their budget, their school has done whatever, and they now have to run it, you know, local meets in their own state against nobody. That matters. That kind of
A
stuff
lot.
really, really matters.
Can I pause you here for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so if there is no Florida relays, there are other people just like them who don't have a place to go, so then they get together and go someplace else together.
I understand, and that is obvious. But the reason.
But if this is obvious, that they don't run against nobody.
But sir.
So let me finish this. Please let me finish this. This is the fallacy to everybody's argument. Okay, if everybody can't go to the one big place, right? If 30 teams are used to going to the one big place and only 10 of them go, that leaves 20 others that need a place to go. So they can find some place to go and compete against each other. Absolutely. So let me finish. So therefore, in my opinion, it's going to make it better because the competitions are smaller and you get more done because there's not many teams there.
Cool. And I accept that premise on its face. But again, and I used Florida relays as an example because it's one of the meets. Like there's a reason that hundreds of teams descend on Gainesville, Florida every year to go to that competition. It's not because Percy Beard track is awesome, though it is. It's a collection of everybody being there. It's the weather. It's all of it. So if I'm a team in the Midwest and I don't get my warm weather travel, that could lead to issues. If I'm an East Coast team,
I don't know what issues it leads to. I don't know. That's not gonna lead to injuries and people blowing up. It might lead to them. It might lead to them not being able to get the same marks they got in Florida relays. But
which
there's other things.
Them not being able to get on the list.
Hold on a second. But that's not what that wasn't what you guys talked about. We talked about people blowing up and getting injured.
No, right. So wait a minute.
Out, all that. Well, hey, I'm talking now. I'll let you talk.
No, actually you didn't, but it's cool. Go ahead.
We'll start that shit again.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So the bottom line is this. Okay. We're not the only warm weather school in this state. There are other schools in this state that have good tracks. And if you put 10 good teams on any track in this state, or in Georgia, or even in Tennessee or South Carolina, guess what? They'll have good performances. People are just, they come to Florida relays because they can. But there's people that go to other places that don't come to Florida relays and they still get their marks. Because if you have to come to Florida relays to be in the top 48 in this side of the country, that's a problem. That's a horrible argument.
Sir, I wasn't making that argument.
That's what you said.
That's not remote.
You said they're not going to get on the list. You took your hands and went just like this and said they're not going to get on the list.
Not because you don't go to Florida relays.
That's what you said.
I used Florida relays as an example of a place that everybody comes to. Now you say other schools in our state. Of course, it's Florida. Every school in your state is a warm weather race. But when you're talking about Florida, there's going to be a whole bunch of places that are not going to be allowed to travel to a Florida or a California this year because of COVID or because of COVID and budgets. That stuff is going to be cut out massively across the country. I can absolutely see scenarios where Coach X at school X, like, oh man, this thing that we've been doing for so many years that rolls right, we got to come up with a new plan. And our new plan is going to be whatever it's going to be. And they plan it wrong and their kids blow up and get hurt, or they plan it wrong and the performances ultimately aren't there. You know that coaches are creatures of habit. Most coaches are not good at playing jazz, at adapting. Most aren't. That's why in any sport, they're creatures of habit. There's one Belichick, and a whole bunch of people that run their systems. And Belichick can adapt his system and beat yours. But there's only one.
I will say this to you, sir, because having this conversation with you is like attempting to whatever, because I'm things that I don't do in life. And you are not going to change your mind. I'm not going to change mine. So at the end of the day, we will see what happens, because there's a lot of things that you say that I totally disagree with.
I'm with you on that.
Exactly. So I mean, hey, so like I said before, when it gets to be May and everybody that's supposed to be at the regional meet is there and nobody's teams are blown up, I'm gonna call you.
I hope we'll talk about Lamar, because Lamar is sitting down there. Lamar's sitting down there, nodding his head at everything I'm saying and being silent. So you gonna jump in?
I don't want to talk over the two of you.
No, you go ahead, sir.
Trust me, I'm gonna call both of you. Be my pleasure. Because you guys are painting this picture of doom and gloom.
Your favorite term.
Doom and gloom. That's your favorite term. It clearly isn't mine.
Well, I will say this.
Because, but like I said, if that's the rhetoric you guys want to spit away. I just happen to totally disagree. I think there's people in this. Nobody's gonna panic because they can't come south. Yeah, nobody's panicking about that. You're not. I'm glad you're
so cute.
Yeah,
you're so cute,
and you're not.
You are so cute. That you actually think that nobody's going to panic for not coming south.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, be upset. Yes. Panic. No.
I'm gonna say people mad about it right now. I'm gonna tell you that.
Okay, there's a difference between being upset about something and panicking and creating this stupid training or racing scenario that's going to get your kids hurt. You should think about that before it comes out of your mouth. You really should.
No, I did think about it, and I will tell you that
you didn't think about it long enough.
Feel very strongly that there are going to be a fair number of teams that mess this up.
Okay. And I feel very strongly that you are absolutely wrong.
That's cool. That's why we have this show.
Exactly.
So now,
like I
now
said,
we get to play it out.
Like I said, we should move on. And come May, we're gonna sit on these same four tiles. I'm gonna be laughing at both of y'all.
Sounds good.
I've made note
behind off.
I've made note of episode 29, and we will come back.
Hold on, trust me. I'm not forgetting this one.
Lamar, you know what it is.
I said, sounds good.
It's easy to sit on top of the mountain.
Oh, that's what it is.
Easy to do that.
Okay, well, see, so in reference to that smart ass comment, remember, I haven't always sat on this mountain. Indeed. I was once down the valley, so I had to climb to get where I am.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touché. I love it. All right. So as if I haven't riled you all up enough, let's ruffle the feathers a little more. And I think the ruffled feathers stay on this screen in the three tiles. It doesn't even matter what goes off these three tiles. Is making Oregon the cathedral. We already got that. That's mine. And I want my copyright money off of that world. That's mine. The permanent site for NCAA Championships, good or bad, for collegiate track and field.
I'm last.
I'm going to turn my hat around and prepare. I feel like I should go get some boxing gloves and get ready for this. I will go first because I know that my man Lucious is going to have my back to some degree on this, but I want to go first, and I want to say it like this. Under no circumstances is having the national championship every year in Eugene, Oregon, a fair proposition to trying to win national championship for the top 20 teams in the country. Is it better optics for the fan base? Will there be a consistent fans and we'll have fuller stands? Almost certainly. But if the question is it better for collegiate track and field? The answer is simply and unequivocally no, because in every other scenario where there is a collegiate home for a national championship, look, in baseball, it's in 3D Ameritrade in Omaha, Nebraska, right? Yeah, that's where Creighton plays. Creighton is not a baseball powerhouse to win a national championship. In softball, it's in Oklahoma City. Now, is Oklahoma a national power? Absolutely. But they don't play in that facility in Oklahoma City. They have to travel just like everybody else. They got to stay in hotels just like everybody else. Now, they don't have time differences and all that other stuff. Is there some advantage there? For sure. I got it. But if you take the national championship and put it where one of the historically best programs in the entire country compete and practice every single day, there is no way that you can argue that that is not a huge, not a small, not a calculated, but a huge advantage at every level of what is collegiate track and field. It's a huge advantage in recruiting. It's a huge advantage in not traveling. It's a huge advantage as it pertains to scheduling. It's a huge advantage as it pertains to what happens at the national championship. It is a wonderful feeling to go someplace for regionals and know that the national championship is going to be had on your home track, in lanes that you know, with winds you know, and sleeping in your own bed. That's my thought.
So I'm going to back up. Jeez, I don't know. I don't have to say much here because in my opinion, you're absolutely right. I think that I know that Clyde is under the opinion that the Oregon fans cheer for everybody the same, which is absolute nonsense. That they cheer for the same they cheer the same for USC as they do for Oregon. Sure, that happens. That doesn't happen. Do they cheer for everybody? Yeah, they cheer for the meat because they're fans of the meat. But they're cheering louder for Oregon, to Lamar's point. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out what lanes you're going to get after the regional meet. So if it's not an advantage for the Oregon team to practice in the lanes they're going to compete in before the championships happens, oh, that's fair, right? So a couple of years ago, and this is a true story, not some made up conjecture, the Oregon's 4x1 on the, I think it was the men or women's side, draws lane one. So they practice in lane one, and guess what? Oh, they qualified for the final out of lane one. Knowing they had to be in lane one, they practiced in lane one the whole time. No competitive advantage there, was there? Of course there was. So this is not about, the whole thing's not about just competitive advantage. I get it. This is a wonderful track. It's a wonderful warm-up. There's wonderful fans. Everything we talk about when it comes to collegiate athletics is a collegiate experience, okay? Allowing athletes to compete at different places and experience different things. Putting it there every year does not create that scenario, okay? It does not. So in the big scheme of things, I'm going to give you the fact that it's a flashy, pretty, whatever you want to call it, cathedral. Nobody's denying that. I'll give you the fact that the fans are wonderful and they do cheer for everybody, but not equally. No. But at the end of the day, it's not what it's supposed to be about. Okay? It's not. And for us to have to come diagonally across the country, that's hell of travel, buddy. Not fair. But I'll tell you like this, wherever it is, we'll show up and get it done. I don't care where they put it. Put it in Berkeley every year, baby. I'm coming.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
I love Berkeley. You know that.
Hey, I'm all
my man got me there. So let's hear this.
I want to
since you just had to go last.
Chew.
I was gonna say, would you like me to mute him for you?
Chew.
No, I ain't getting muted.
Chew. I would like
to you for. Hey, look, light-skinned boy, speak your mind. Let's go.
Chew. I would like to point out that I didn't say a word. I ain't say nothing.
It's the first time for everything.
I ain't say a word.
First time for everything.
There is no chance that I'm going to get through what I want to
Oh
say.
no, look, I promise you. What if you ever start talking and quit referencing me and referencing you? You ain't said nothing.
Look, are you looking? Are you looking, Clyde?
Oh, I know you're capable. It ain't about you. All right. So I wanted to go opposite of you guys because I figured that you all would mostly agree, and that's fine. I took notes as you all were talking. I'd like to run them in order. To Mr. Lamar. Chu, could you repeat the question for me one more time, though?
Yes.
The question doesn't matter.
Is making Oregon the permanent site for NCAA Championships good or bad for collegiate track and field?
Good or bad for the sport? It is phenomenal for the sport. It is no one's fault in the country that only Oregon has the money and the resources to build what they have built. Now, a lot of these arguments about Eugene, prior to the cathedral being finished, you can make an argument that what was sitting up there at Oregon wasn't necessarily any more or less spectacular than a few places in the country. Not many, but a few. Now, what they have built up there is so far and away better than anything else in this country. My thing, Lucious brought up about experience. If I'm a collegiate athlete, I want to finish my year off with the best possible experience. There is no experience in the stadium or behind the scenes better than what Oregon and the people who run that meet up there roll out for these kids, coaches, officials, and I can only imagine how much better it's going to be now that the building has been finished. So from an experience standpoint, it's the best possible place to hold the meet, period. It's not even up for debate. I don't understand the notion that the season's over, it's the culmination of what we all do, and we're going to choose to hold it somewhere that is substandard to what's available. I want the best possible experience for the kids. Now, because we have a regional system at Division I, I got no problem rotating the regionals. And I don't think the regionals should be rotated anywhere that would ultimately be a negative possible experience. I think we should do everything we can to make every level of championship season the best possible experiences. I don't want to run in the Midwest in storms. I don't want to do that, but whatever. So that's the experience issue. Lamar, you said something that is factually inaccurate. Sleeping in their own beds. They don't do that. They check into hotels just like everybody else does. I've seen it. I've been there. They check into hotels just like everybody else does. So there is no sleeping in their own beds. That's not a thing. That's one of those myths about how this works.
It's not a myth. That's an abuse of money. That's what that is.
Maybe it is, but they don't sleep in their own beds.
So it's not a myth. Let's not. I am not going to let you piss on my head and tell me it's raining.
Sir, I'm just making...
Because they choose to stay in a hotel does not mean that that's right.
Sir.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You pissed me off, so I'm going to shut up.
Sir, okay. The fans. Now, this is a point where I am going to ask Lucious to step back in this. Lucious, we have talked about it on this show. One of the best races I've ever witnessed in person was Kyra Jefferson's 22-0 win over the quote-unquote favorite Oregon women. I was in the building. Has Kyra Jefferson, after that race, ever come up to you and be like, she knew who was rooting for her and who they wasn't rooting for? I bet you money y'all have never had that conversation. It was loud.
So this is a question for me.
Yeah.
That is the dumbest damn question I've ever heard in my life.
No, I'm asking you, seriously.
No, exactly. And I'm telling you, that's a dumb question.
Why?
First of all, why would we ask anybody, oh, who are you cheering for? We're in freaking Eugene, Oregon.
Exactly.
Of course they were cheering for her.
No, you're missing
Hold on a second. The crowd was going crazy because she ran by me. Oh, excuse me. Let me answer the question or not.
Yep.
Okay. The crowd was going crazy because Deja ran by everybody on the turn. Okay. And if you don't think the crowd was going crazy, hoping that Deja would hold her off, then your ass is delusional.
Not what I'm saying.
What are you
not
saying then?
remotely what I'm saying. So
Okay,
hear me.
okay.
That's not remotely what
Okay,
I'm saying.
okay.
My point is, when the gun went off and the crowd erupts and everybody's at the top of their lungs loud, no one running is thinking, gee, I wonder who they want to win the race. The athletes are just excited about the noise.
And you don't think Deja knows? She's at home.
How did it work out?
She knows.
How did it work out? Didn't help her
How it
perform,
worked
did
out
it?
has nothing. Again,
Didn't help her perform.
the fallacies of your questions and your answers are amazing.
Okay.
The fact that Kyra won the race, you know what? I'm gonna go back to what I said.
Because she was well coached and ready to race.
That has nothing to do with, to Lamar's point, of the crowd and who they're cheering for.
And what I'm saying is,
so change the rhetoric on that, because
what
at
I'm
the end of
saying,
the day, Kyra beat her. Yes, Kyra won the race. That's not the point. The point of the matter is, like, you go and you ask the people in the stands who they wanted to win the race.
What I'm saying is that's not relevant.
It is relevant.
It's not relevant at all. This is not a. It's not a basketball game.
Okay, hold on. No.
It's not a basketball game or a football game where a play happens and you can tell which side the crowd is on. The race goes off. The race goes off, and all the athletes running here is noise. They hear and feel the crowd. It's not. I've never heard any athlete wonder who they were wondering. They're not even thinking about it. They're just out there enjoying the fact that there is all these people, thousands of people making it going.
Okay, so all right, so I'm going to dispel this very easily.
My question to you is over. My question to you.
Hold on, but my answer ain't over.
Okay.
I'm gonna answer this and then you can move on, because I'm honestly I'm done with this shit. Okay, because that's just the dumbest thing ever.
I can't tell.
Everybody on this panel, anybody listening to this, knows that the number of people who are able to run well on their home tracks in front of their home people happens every freaking weekend. And for you to try to spit this nonsense that it's not an advantage
I
for
didn't
them
say
to
that.
run. Hold on a second.
I have not said that.
Done. You're interrupting me. I ain't talking.
You can't put words in my mouth. You cannot.
Okay. So whatever rhetoric you're trying to, that they don't know that they're cheering for her. It's her home crowd. Of course she knows. Okay.
Again.
Of course she knows.
Are you done?
So yeah. Trust me, I'm done. But just don't.
I don't trust you at all.
I don't give a shit if you trust me. I don't care if you trust me. Say what you gotta say.
Ask me to trust you.
Okay. I don't want you to trust me. I'm done.
Lamar.
Unless you pull me back into this nonsense, I'm done.
Lamar,
yes, Clyde.
Lamar, you gave the example, and props for you knowing that, of Creighton being the school that the championship is currently hosted at in baseball.
Nebraska.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you, if Creighton built a nationally elite baseball program, would you then venture to say that they should move the College World Series out of that place?
I'll go one further. I would think that having the national championship there might be one of the reasons that would help them build a national championship. But what you can't do is do revisionist history. We are where we are. Oregon is one of the best track and field programs in the country, right?
Currently.
So at this point, if you were to give them the permanent national site, you are going to permanently give them an advantage. And there is no way. Look, you want to know why everybody, I hate to, this sounds so disrespectful, but I got to say it the way it is. You know why everybody loved the NCAA championships when they were in Sacramento? Because nobody was concerned about Sac State.
That again, so because others don't hear me, I'm talking at you at this moment.
Hey, look.
I have never
Hey. Listen to me very carefully. Do not do that. I have a fucking name. Use my name.
Lucious,
okay.
You're not listening.
You haven't heard me.
You tried to put words in my mouth.
Hold on a second. I have a name.
Lucious.
Use my name.
Lucious.
This other stuff ain't flying, bro.
Lucious.
They ain't clowning me. Quit talking to me like I'm 2 years old.
I wasn't talking to you at all. I was talking to Lamar.
Don't touch others. And talk to Lamar and leave me out of it.
I was. That's exactly what I was
doing. Don't refer
to
me as other ever again.
I wasn't. See, that's the thing. There's a bunch of others that I wasn't referring to.
Ain't nobody talking about me, you, and Lamar.
There's a whole. There's a whole bunch.
Hey, talk to Lamar.
Focus.
I'm trying to focus.
Lamar. Leave me out.
There's a whole bunch of people that share this mentality and do this. I'm talking to all of them. I have never said that having the meet in Eugene is not a competitive advantage for the host school. I've never said that. What I have said repeatedly, and I will say again, is that it's not enough of an advantage to outweigh all of the other things that make it the perfect place, the best place, the most elite place, the best experience for everyone. It's not a big enough of an advantage. Oregon track and field is recently a national power who's usually in the mix to win rings. That ain't always been the case. It damn sure wasn't the case when I was in school, and I ain't that old. Okay. So to my question that I was asking to Lamar, if Creighton built that type of program, I don't believe I'd hear Lamar coming in here and talking about they should move the College World Series somewhere else. You wouldn't, because
I would disagree with you, and I would say this, like here's a perfect example, right? The best example I can give of a home court advantage and what happens at the national championships is the University of Arkansas indoors.
Okay, great.
When the national championship is at the University of Arkansas indoors, and this was said to me by a coach at the University of Arkansas, being at home is worth at least 10 points.
Okay, and I will absolutely co-sign that because of all the little things that make indoor distinct. Every indoor track, like tracks really, really matter indoors. We all understand that. So that piece of it indoors is a huge thing. And currently, Arkansas isn't necessarily heads and shoulders above any of the other top 5 to 8 programs, facilities in the country. There's a bunch of elite indoor facilities. They all have little kinks to them, and therefore rotating the thing matters. There's no, up or down. You're absolutely right about the Sacramento point that you made. You're absolutely right about that. But what they've built up north is heads and shoulders above Sacramento now.
Look,
Sacramento,
I understand that what they built is beautiful, and understand this. If I was gonna go to a track meet where they don't keep score, that is the place in the United States that I would want to go. For every Olympic trials, forever, from now till 2,000,000,010. But what I'm telling you is if they keep score, I got an issue with it being there every year because it is an advantage and the advantage matters at the national championship level. Look, I have competed for a national championship myself on that track against an Oregon Duck. And trust me when I tell you, it is not an even playing field. It is not.
But again, I've never here or anywhere else said that it's not a competitive advantage. I haven't said that. Here's my question to both of you. If the issue is the issue moving it around, or is the issue where it would be moved to? Because right now, Mount Sac has a very elite facility that they have built. It ain't the cathedral, but it is very elite. Would either of you say, you know what? That's a JUCO. We're going to have it there every single year forever. You'd be good with that?
Absolutely.
Lucious?
Nope.
I would.
Be good with that. Okay, so Lucious,
that's fine because we see it differently.
Why would you not be good with that?
Okay, so I'm not good with that because, like I said, I think it's important that my student athletes get to experience different places. And for me, this whole nonsense is that it's this great track and it's this great warm-up area and they do all these flashy things. Okay, I get that, right? But at the end of the day, we need to experience different things. And we've yet to have the meet someplace where you couldn't get warmed up and get things done. Okay, and as long as we all have to experience the same thing, I'm okay with that. Okay? I'm okay with that. And I'm just not okay with putting something someplace because somebody happens to have more money and more resources than everybody else, because that is totally against what we're supposed to be about. Okay, that's all it is too for. So my thing is this: I don't think it should be anywhere permanently.
Okay,
I'll give my thought process as to why a permanent site I think is a good thing. I think a permanent site is a good thing because I've seen what it happens in other sports, in particular in baseball, where every single program in the entire country has a Road to Omaha t-shirts, right? I get it. Like, I can see what the positivity to that and building a fan base and all it. Look, I get all that. What I don't get, and I will never, ever, ever in life be on board for, is the permanent site being at a school that is permanently in the national championship hunt. That can't happen. And I would say the same
other
thing
thing I'm going to say
if
about
it was
that
in
is,
Gainesville.
exactly.
If look, Gainesville's got more. They got more money than God too, right? They just
No,
built
we
a six.
don't.
All I'm saying is this: they just built a $68 million baseball facility, right? If they get a new AD
That's a lot of
who
money.
loves track, right? If they get a new AD who loves track and says, you know what, damn Oregon, I'm building a facility that's got 10 more seats and is nicer and this, that, and the third. And somebody said to me, hey, what do you think about having the national championship at the University of Florida every year? I would say, no, that's bullshit. And the reason I'd say that is because it would be a competitive advantage. Now, for one of my best friends, sure. But at the end of the day, the national championship should be competed fairly, in my opinion. I won my national championship collegiately at Tad Gormley Stadium. Last I checked, it's not a great cathedral for track and field. But I tell you this much, it's one of my 3 favorite venues. Know why? Because I won there.
That's right.
If they had the NCAAs at Botswana Tech, whoever won that year would love that too.
If we could find a facility that was centrally located, okay, like baseball, right? So it's easier for everybody in the country to get to, right? Okay, and wasn't on somebody's campus, I might be more likely to roll with you.
Well, centrally located means it would have to be in the Midwest, in Tornado Alley.
Hold on a second.
That's a bad idea.
And you know what? And it was a great idea to be competing in a hailstorm a couple years ago, wasn't it?
We're not going to waste an hour on the weather debate because
you had on something. Then why did you bring it up?
I didn't bring up the weather debate. I used the term centrally located is one of these.
Okay. It doesn't have to be in the Midwest.
It
It could be somewhere a little further south or whatever. But the bottom line is, it's more centrally located than Eugene, Oregon, is what I'm saying. Okay, because there's
everybody loved the NCAA championship that was in Boise, Idaho, outdoors, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we go there. All I'm saying is there's a lot of places that we can go to meet the criteria that you speak of, Clyde. All I'm saying to you is this: I'm a fan of. Look, if we can figure out a place to have it every year, you know what? I can see the positivity that comes from that. But I will say this till I am dead. It cannot be at a place that is already a national track and field power. It can't be at A&M. It can't be at Florida. It can't be at Arkansas. It can't be at LSU. It can't be at Florida State.
USC.
It can't be at Oregon. And it can't be at USC.
Yeah.
So that's my issue.
I understand that point. It's a fair point. It is totally fair. But the question was, is it good or bad for the sport? And I know you understand this because you've talked about it just now and in other terms. It's the best thing possible for the sport because it is the best looking thing on the television. It is the one guaranteed place where you're going to have the sold out crowd going crazy every single time, rain or shine, and the weather is usually not an issue. It's the best, it's the first class experience for our kids. I don't understand the mentality that says, I can fly coach. I can fly first class, but I'm gonna choose to fly coach. That's this reality now. What they have built is an elite world-class facility.
Nobody's debating the facility in this world class, but there's other things that go along. It's the fairness of the competition. And here's the other thing that you speak to. Yes, it's packed every day with Oregon fans. Again, because it's hard for people who don't live there or on the West Coast to get there.
A plane ticket is a plane ticket, boss.
Okay, so you think a plane ticket is a plane ticket, but let me tell you, because I've dealt with this when I had to go to Oregon every year, the parents on my team who could not afford to get there. See, now you're talking something you know what you're talking about.
So
you talk about a single
so the
mom.
flights to Portland or Eugene are dramatically more expensive than the flights to Sacramento, California? No,
we're talking about every year.
They're not though. They're not dramatically more expensive. They're not dramatically more expensive.
But we're still talking about it's not easy to get there.
Yeah, it's not. It's flying to an international airport or a small.
It's not easy to get there.
Listen, I get all
these things. I'm speaking from experience here. I'm not talking about that. You can't be speaking from experience because you never worked where I work and had to get my team and my parents there. You're not speaking from experience. You just talk off the top of your head.
I'm not though.
Because you are.
Well, sir, just because you have the biggest team every year doesn't mean people don't understand.
It has nothing to do with my status in this sport.
I wasn't talking about your status. I said the amount of people that you have.
It has the amount of people I take there. If it's just me, it still takes me forever to get there.
Okay.
It's still hard for my parents to get there.
Okay.
That's the point. So far for my parents to get there, there's other people on the East Coast. It's not easy for them to get there either.
Right, and that
so to your point, if we're talking about the stacked fans that are there, 90% or more of them are cheering for the Ducks, which speaks to what Lamar said from the very beginning.
Is just ridiculous to me.
How's it ridiculous?
20,000.
How's it ridiculous?
Listen, 10, 15,000 people in the stands going crazy when a race is going on for the Ducks is better than no one in the stands like it was in Arkansas. Like no one in the stands when it is in Des Moines. Like half of the crowd when it is in Texas. Like half the crowd when it was in Texas.
It's better for you.
It's better for the kids.
Hold on a second.
For the kids.
It's better for you because you want to see people in the stands. But it's not better for the people that are being cheered against. And you don't want to hear that.
It's not about wanting to hear it or not wanting to hear it. It's a fundamental disagreement that we have because I've never heard any athlete in track. I've never heard any athlete in track run at Oregon and come off the track and say, the crowd was so against me, it really messed up my race. No, I've heard plenty of people not in Oregon uniforms come off the track and be like, oh my God, I've never heard a crowd that loud before. It pushed me.
Talk to the guys. Okay,
I've heard that.
Go and ask the guys that were running against the guys when Oregon had 3 or 4 guys in the 1500 final. And ask those guys how they felt when the crowd was, when people would come off the turn and they went crazy for the 3 Oregon guys come off the turn. Or ask the guys that are running the 4x4 when the great quarter miler they had is trying to run everybody down the 4x4. I don't think they know they're cheering for them. And this whole nonsense of that indoor tracks are different. Running indoors at Arkansas, the crowd was cheering and woo pig suing for Arkansas, and everybody knew it.
Yes,
so what's the difference? Either
I wasn't making a crowd argument about indoor. I was making a track argument about it.
But his point was to the crowd, not to the facility. Oh, it was.
I don't think that it was. I think it was to the way the track is set up and functioned. And it was.
No, he was talking about the Arkansas's advantage, just like Oregon had an advantage. That's what his point was.
I watched the president of the university call the Hogs.
Exactly.
Of course. Why wouldn't he?
I just
okay.
So wonderful to wake up on my home track.
When you're in Arkansas and they go in lane 6, it's Wallace Spearman and they start the woo pig suey, right? Okay, it's no different than when they go in lane 4. It's Deja Stevens from Oregon and the crowd goes crazy. And in lane 5 is Jefferson from Florida. It's different.
No, but you know what else? I've also seen.
Yeah, how you supposed to know?
You know what else
I was standing there.
I've also seen a million times at Arkansas. I've seen a gator on the track, and I've heard the gator joint be louder than anything else that's going on in there. Yes, I have.
Not when there's Arkansas on the track.
Yes, I have.
But you haven't heard that in Oregon.
Again, yes, I have because again.
Okay.
When you find me an athlete that comes out of a race and says that the crowd noise was working against them, I will openly listen to that, but I've never heard it.
No,
I've
nobody.
only heard the opposite.
You just
Do you see my
got
hand?
one on the screen right now.
Do you see my hand? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I competed for a national championship on that track against an Oregon native, one Mr. Tom Pappas. Not even an Oregon Duck. He's from Oregon.
Yes. What event are we
Trust
speaking?
and believe.
Listen, sir, what event are we speaking?
The decathlon. You may have seen it. I've done a few.
So here's my question. So here's honestly, here's my
yes.
question. Here's my question to you. When decathlon, when you guys lined up for the 100-meter dash as a part of the decathlon, when the gun went off and the crowd was screaming, did you notice or did it harm or hurt who they were screaming for, or were you juiced by the energy of the crowd?
100 no, 400 yes, 1500 yes.
So the
sure.
noise, no, I'm asking. So the noise in the 1500 made you run worse.
It's not about whether I
this.
ran worse. It's about what juice was being given to them.
To
Right?
them.
Okay, I come down the long jump runway
Yes,
and I
thank
jumped
you.
798 on my first jump. Tom Pappas comes down the runway and jumps 775, and it's like, you don't think that makes a difference?
Not when you were jumping, after the fact.
Okay. What about before the fact? Okay, you don't think it helps the Oregon athlete to get a bigger roar and energy boost from the crowd?
It might.
I never said
it
might.
I never said it hasn't.
Okay, well, that's the
Y'all keep
whole
going in the
point.
circle. I
That's
never said
hey,
that.
no, you're going in a circle. That's the
No,
whole
I'm not.
point.
Okay,
That-
let me
that-
say it from
that
You
being in front of your
downplay
own crowd, when you get announced and the crowd goes crazy for you, it juices you more than the athlete beside you who doesn't get the same response.
These are facts.
Or
No.
if you have
No.
wait a minute, or if you have a dog like a
No.
Kyra Jefferson, it might
No.
piss you off more, and you want to go stomp some heads.
No.
You're trying to judge the internal motivation of people you don't.
I'm not trying to judge anything.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you what happened.
You're saying that it's across the board this way, and there's no way to know that.
Hold
How do you
on a
measure
second.
it?
To
How does it end?
put this show back on the rails.
This is what
Chief.
I know to be a fact. Okay, if I am on my home track at the Florida Relays, and before, okay, you guys have witnessed this.
Yes.
I have to hear all the time. The 4x4s on the track, right?
Yeah.
And the crowd gets to doing what we do. You don't think that juices our guys up a little bit, just a little bit?
It juices everybody else's too.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Not at the same
Yes,
level.
it does.
Not at the same level.
Yes, it does.
No.
There's
You
no
know what?
way. There's no way. Okay, let me just say one more thing. Seriously, 'cause
No.
I am not disputing what you two are trying to allude to. I'm not disputing it. What I'm saying is there is no tangible way to measure it. We can measure the crowd size. We can measure the experience of the athletes. We can measure, like, there's tangible differences between warm-up area X and what they have up there. Like, we can measure these things. There's no way to tangibly measure what it does to someone's emotions or their mentality. The type of athlete I was, my best races always came when the crowd was against me. Always. That's me. I want to get booed in the arena. I'm going to roll out even harder. That's true of basketball players. That's true of football players. There are athletes that respond that way. There are athletes that respond the other way. Some athletes respond better when their mama and daddy's in the stands versus when they're not in the stands. This is not something that you can tangibly measure. What you can tangibly measure is how much better the meet is when it's in Oregon. How much better the experience is when it's in Oregon.
Can I say one thing and then we move on?
When it's in Oregon.
Can I say one thing and then we move on?
Yes.
Okay. When they have the national championship in basketball, it's always at a neutral site, because absolutely and positively they never want a national championship to be swayed one way or the other by the fact that it is more of a home court for one team than the other, right? Now, it still happens. It's like in football when the national championship game is in the Sugar Bowl. Like, it is a huge advantage to be a Southeastern team, right?
Sure.
Okay, so I get that, like, we can't help regional biases. But what's never going to happen is the national championship in basketball be held at the University of North Carolina, which holds like 15,000 seats, or the University of Kentucky, right? It's not going to be held at those places. They're amazing basketball cathedrals, but you can't have the game on another contending team's home field.
But wait a minute,
you just can't do it.
That's so disingenuous of you, because I don't know if you said it on purpose or not. You actually exposed the real reason why the game will never be at UNC or in Kentucky. It's not because of that. It's because you can have it in Texas Stadium, at AT&T Stadium, where you can have the hugest crowd possible and the best possible experience of the Final Four. The Final Four at Kentucky is lame compared to it being at Texas Stadium or the RCA Dome or something like that. It's whack.
I think the Final Four would actually be doper at a smaller venue because it would be louder. But that's basketball. All I'm saying is this, and Chew, for sure we need to move on. I will never, ever, ever co-sign to the national championship being held on the campus of a national contending team every year. I can't do it.
Listen, I'm sympathetic to that point. But the problem with that point is, that's why I actually prefer Lucious's point on this issue. The problem with that point is that if Oregon sucked, you wouldn't care. And they haven't always been a national contender. So why are we talking about this as if they always will be? We don't know that.
They have been a national contender for the last 25 years.
Oh, wow. That's not true, because I ain't run track 25 years ago in the NCAA, and they at no point were a national contender was I was in school. So That's not true. That's just simply untrue.
Okay. I'll let you tell it.
Go look it up.
Yeah, I don't think the point is to whether or not they're a national contender now, and where they might not be one in 10 or 12 years. But what if they are?
What if they are?
And having them meet there certainly helps ensure that they will continue to be a contender, because you can't believe that it's not a recruiting tool as well.
Well, listen, the schools with the biggest pocketbooks and successful programs.
No.
Sir, stop. Come on now.
No, you stop.
Oregon has a recruiting advantage on. Oregon has a shiny spectacle recruiting advantage, and they're always going to have it. You know why? Because they invest in the sport, and
but that's not my point.
And they give out.
That's not my point. But having them meet on their campus is added to the advantage. And I don't think that Oregon has any more advantage than anybody else. So at the end of the chips, there's only so many athletes to go around, right? But having them meet there definitely assures that they continue to be an attraction. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. Put the damn meat on the moon. We'll show up and be competitive. But at the end of the day, for me, for my 2 cents, regardless of how flashy riding first class versus riding coach, I don't think anybody wants to go to the same place every single year. Okay.
Well,
and the other thing this is too, we're talking about experience. Ain't a whole lot outside of the cathedral in that town. Just saying.
Oh well, now that's just the case. That's just the question of personal charm and what you like and what you don't like.
Absolutely.
Me
Big
personally.
league.
Me personally, I love the nuances of that place off the track.
And me personally, I don't.
Well, if that's the case, start every year and let's go to LA. There's all kinds of fun outside the track.
And I definitely don't want to go to LA every year either.
Wait, can I ask? Because I have to.
No.
I just want to know, what venues do you enjoy the non-track life of the city?
I said no.
I mean, Austin's not bad. Actually, the area that with Duke, there's some nice areas around Duke. Not Duke proper. Des Moines wasn't awful. There was some decent stuff around Des Moines. Sacramento wasn't bad. I didn't mind Sacramento at all. That's not LA. It's a different deal.
I still think, for my money, nobody's asking me, if Sacramento could have figured it out, that actually would have been the best permanent home for the meet. Then, obviously, now is a whole different ball of wax. But
Well,
then
made it much worse.
And for the record, if it is going to be in Oregon forever, so we can argue this
right, it's going to be there. So
it's going to be there. And look, and they'll do a good job with it. Nobody's disputing that at all. But if it depends on if you say whether it's good or bad for track and field, I don't think it's good for it. I don't think it's going to kill the sport either. But I don't think it's good for the sport as a whole, in my opinion.
It works in every other sport that does it.
Yep, and she's got a really nice personality too.
yes.
Only she's fine in this example.
Oh my God.
Please, so that's what
please
she's got a nice body, but her face,
There's nothing wrong with the face in this example.
yeah,
Nothing at all.
There is. Oh, trust me.
You have a problem with her loyalty in this analogy.
Oh my God.
No, I don't.
Please jump in there.
Not at all.
Oh,
Like I said, she's cute.
go Yetis.
Uh-oh.
She's
Megatron's
transforming
back.
again.
Megatron.
Megatron's back.
Hold on. Are we good?
Yes.
Got it. All right.
See, all that nonsense, you brought Megatron out.
I don't know why that happened.
Oh,
That was her interjecting herself back in to get
Right.
control. She needed the
I
Megatron.
see.
Give me the mic. All right. So, as if we didn't throw it up in the air just now, throw it up in the air again. But wait, I have a question. I have two questions. Irrelevant, completely irrelevant. Clyde, is that a tie for Clyde?
Yeah. Oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Ooh. I was noticing it. I like it. It's very dapper.
Appreciate it.
Very dapper. And then Ray's win. I look at that shirt and I feel like I need a cooler and one of those Yeti cups, but I feel like it's not that what that's not the reference. So what is the reference?
It's definitely it. So if you can see both here and here, these are Yetis or abominable. What are those things? So not snowmen. What are they called? Bigfoot.
Snowman.
Bigfoot.
Oh.
Big feet. Like more than one is a big feet, right? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's wrong, but
there's a Bigfoot legend in Cleveland County, North Carolina. And so when they decided to have a sports teams, they decided to name them the Yetis.
Got it. Okay.
Cleveland County, so Cleveland Community College, for those out there, is not in Cleveland, Ohio. It is in Cleveland County in Shelby, North Carolina.
Got it.
Shout out to Yeti Nation.
Got it. Okay. I had to ask. Sorry, because I will forget to ask that after.
All good.
Okay. So as we've been wrapping up kind of our questions here, we've been doing medal predictions. And so tonight we're going to tackle the women's 200.
Ooh.
So,
do we have to?
Do we have to? Would you guys like for me to go first? I don't
mean,
mind.
you've already rolling. Go for it.
Sure. I'm going to go with the Olympic double because as mentioned before, Elaine is definitely winning the 100, and I'm going to predict that she's going to also win the 200. I think that Dina Asher-Smith is going to be the silver medalist for a lot of reasons, and I think in a non if it weren't for one human being, she'd be the dominant force, I think, in the women's 200. And then, you know what? I've had some intimate conversations with this person's coach, so I think that I think one Miss Kyra Jefferson has a shot at a medal, and I'm gonna jump out on a limb and say that Kyra Jefferson is going to be a bronze medalist like myself. Welcome to the club, Kyra Jefferson.
All right, I like it. So the problem with predicting the 200 meters at the Olympics, especially this far in advance, is, as we all know, we don't even know who the hell is going to step out there and run it.
We know that. Don't make excuses. Just pick 3 people.
Sir, I'm speaking to the audience.
I'm sorry.
Jesus.
I'll be back on my raise win.
I am pretty certain that Miss Dina Asher-Smith is going to run the event, and I'm going to choose her regardless for the gold medal. I think it's her time. I just think it's her time. I'm a big fan. I really like that young lady, and I think that's her better of the two sprint events. I think it is her time. I have no confidence that the Jamaicans can pull off that type of double. But if they did, I would put Shelly over Elaine in the deuce just because she's tried it before and done it. But I'm not picking either one of them. So I'm going to say that I'm going to go with Dina for the gold. I'm going to go and say that Shawnee is going to try the double. And because it's a 4-2 double, she's going to get the silver because the 4 would be first if I remember it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Silver. And then for the bronze, I'm going to co-sign Mr. Lamar's prediction, and I'm going to roll with Miss Jefferson coming back, making the team, and ending up with the bronze medal. And not just because Lucious is a part of our panel here. When I saw her run 22-0 in Eugene, I thought she was incredibly special, and I thought she was the next one in that event. And we haven't had a true 200-meter, American since Allison. And I think Kyra can be that. And if anyone's going to step into that void, and it is a void on the American team right now, I think she's best suited to do it. So those are my 3.
Lamar, before you jump in there, I have to ask a question.
Lucious.
I'm sorry, Lamar. Lucious.
Yeah, right.
Didn't you know what? What's in the cup? Didn't Elaine win both?
Don't steal my thunder, please. Please.
Okay, I'll shut up. Because he said he didn't trust Jamaicans to handle that double.
Okay, so young man, let me enlighten you a little bit. Elaine Thompson just happens to be the reigning Olympic champion, and not just the 100, but the 200 as well.
Yep,
that's what I thought.
So the statement of I don't trust her or I haven't tried it. Okay, if you don't think she can do it, you don't think she can do it. But this I don't try it rhetoric, she's done it.
Trust.
No, you said she hasn't tried it. Rewind the tape, stick a pin in.
Rewind the tape.
That's exactly what you said. We go through this every week. You said she hasn't tried it. That's what she said. But anyway, she's the reigning champion in both of them.
Shelly has tried and did it well.
Shelly hasn't won both of them. And then
I know.
But you're discounting a woman that's done it. But anyway.
I said I don't.
So
God, you are so petty. Please continue. Oh my God, Lucious, please continue. Don't let him derail you today.
Oh no, I'm good. He never derails me. He's not that good. But
oh God.
So what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to go with Miss Shawnee Miller-Weibo to win the race. Okay.
Woo.
I'm going with Shawnee. I think Shawnee is going to have a big surprise for people next year. And I think that she's your winner. I think
part of a double, sir? Is this part of a double?
We'll see.
I think you think she's going to do a different double.
Mm-hmm. I sure do. But anyway, I think she wins it. I think that Elaine is second. And I'm gonna let Dina be there for now. And I'm gonna keep talking to Miss Jefferson's coach and see what we can do.
Yeah, talk to him. Talk to him.
I'll let him know that you guys have stirred the pot a little bit.
Lamar, would you agree with me that if Shawnee changed up and ran the 1-2 double, that we would both pick her to win the straight up 200? Because I definitely would.
So
1-2, I'm picking her to win the 2.
So here's what I'm gonna say. If Shawnee runs the 200 and she doesn't run 3 rounds of the 400 before it, I think you'd have to be blinder than Ray Charles not to see that she's the favorite. So yes, I would agree. I don't know what the effects of 3 rounds of the 100 would actually do to her because she's never done it. Well, she probably did it in high school. But I don't know, call me crazy. Like, I can't see her not running the 400, but you know what? her and her coach they're a little different. They think a little different. They do a little different things. So that's a possibility.
See, I could see her not running it because she's already the Olympic champion at the 4.
And there is that too. You know,
I think she's going to run it though, but I can see that. No.
I think she's the best 200-meter runner in the world. I don't think she is if she's run 3 rounds of the 4. So my prediction is based off the fact that I think she's going to do the 4-2 double, and in which case I think there's a problem.
All right. Well, those are all locked in by Penn. So we shall see. We shall see. Tokyo 21. Let's go. Well, we made it. Everyone's still alive. 10 fingers, 10 toes. So let's put let's see if Huff comes out with 10 fingers after this one. Huff's on the hot seat. He's got rapid fire this week. Need to do a little stretch, sir?
I am ready. Yeti Nation.
Oh my God. All right. Here we go. Take the ferry or take Bart?
Take the ferry.
When you're eating wings, do you like flats or drumettes?
Ooh. You know, I'm probably gonna surprise the people. I'm gonna take the flats.
Got it. Yankees or the Rays?
Oh, stop. Listen.
Great question, actually.
Right?
It is a great question, and I have a complicated answer that I'm not going to give. I'll just say this: when there is a Huffins that is playing for the Rays, the answer is the Rays. But until there is a Huffins playing for the Rays, it is the Yankees.
Got it. I'm going to shoot Lucious's question to you: Marvel or DC?
Marvel. That's not a question.
All right. Most memorable competition?
Whew. Oh, man. I would say my most memorable competition was probably 1993 NCAA's at Tad Gormley Stadium in New Orleans, Louisiana. Funny fact, I was in the NCAA's 4 years in a row and was never an All-American until my last year where I won. So that was kind of a big deal. It was the first decathlon my father had ever seen me do. So that worked out well. And it was the first 8,000 point score I ever had. And I did it by just under a second at 8,007 points. So
good job.
Kind of the most memorable, I guess.
All right. Last one. Top 3 rappers.
Of all time?
Oh, wow.
No, of today. Yes, of all time. Fool.
Hey, that's a real question. That's why I asked.
Of all time, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
In order or just 3?
In order.
God, see, I was trying to get away with that one.
In order.
Okay. In order, Eminem 3, Tupac 2, Biggie 1.
I'm not mad at it.
And I'll take that order in any level of debate with any human being for as long as they want to argue.
Got it.
For my money, that's 1, 2, 3, and it ain't changing in probably.
Kaba's at home doing somersaults. He's
I know, right?
You know what? Kaba and I have had this conversation.
I was going to say.
I think I made Kaba shorter. So.
What?
Listen.
We had this conversation in Texas a couple years ago. We had
this conversation in public in Texas, and at the end
and we
of the
actually
day,
had 2 guys join the conversation who were from California. They were like, "Yeah, it was funny."
Hey, look, you can disrespect Eminem all you want to, but at the end of the day, it's a lot like LeBron. Like, no matter what category, no matter what metric you use to judge rappers, Eminem's top 3. No matter what metric you use. sales, spitability, raw content, off the dome, you name it, you know, fire releases, you call it, we there.
You said spitability.
I did say spitability.
Understood.
And in the rap world, that's a real word.
Okay. Well, we will go ahead and move on to our heartbeat props on that one. I will go first because I've been going last the last few weeks. So, as for heartbeat props, I want to give some props out to my D3 brothers. I call them my D3 brothers because when I made the transition from California to Indiana, that is the division that I went into. And, you know, say what you may about the Division 3, but as a whole, the coaches, I will say specifically to the area that I'm in, were very warm and embracing. And, you know, at first they did have to figure me out and try to figure out what I was going to do to them and how bad I was going to make them feel about themselves. But, you know, I'll quote one as saying is, "Oh, dang, she does know what she's talking about. And I actually like what she's saying." And I was like, yeah, you know, take notes. It's okay. I won't be mad at you. So I have to give some quick shout outs and love to, and I had to write them down so I make sure I didn't forget. Clyde Morgan, Julian, I forgot your last name. I apologize. Paris Hilliard, Justin Lindsay, and Saul. Thank you for embracing me, making the transition. Stevens, I'm sorry, Saul Stevens. I just really didn't say your last name. The transition a little bit easier, just kind of being all by my lonesome. And, you know, y'all taking some L's while you're at it. So it was okay.
Get them, Chew. Get them.
Supposedly, my name's still being talked about in the NCAC, so I'll take it.
You know, mine's an easy one, and it's very lighthearted tonight. Once a week, I am highly entertained and completely bombarded by this group of gentlemen. And I think for some reason we probably need to add a female to it, but for whatever reason, there hasn't been one thus far. But I created this group, and it was under the auspices of, hey, you know what? It's like a men's health group. We should talk about things besides track and field. We all love music. Let's do this. What it has become is a political rant room, a no, you can't do that, and you got to be better as a human being room. Not all white people are bad and not all black people are good room. It's become all of those things, and it's been honestly a real live place of love and security during both COVID, the true emergence of Black Lives Matters actually mattering, and several of the shootings this year, just as a safe space to talk and be heard. But my shout out and my love and my heartbeat props this week go to a group that is fondly known as the Goon Squad. You all know who you are. Membership has its privileges. And I know that they actually all watch the show. So, yeah, shout out and love to the Goon Squad.
All right. Lamar just inspired mine for a totally different reason. So I appreciate the inspiration, sir. In the spirit of Goon Squad and what it represents, my heartbeat props today are going to go out to the people who really care about this country, and that is the voters. We are 16 days away, in case you had lost count by some miracle, 16 days away from official election day, but in almost every state in the union, elections have already started. And so I don't care if you're doing it by mail, if you're standing in super long lines already, they're only going to get longer. However you are planning to vote, whatever your voting plan is, I personally appreciate you being engaged and caring enough about the future of our country to get out there and do something. even if you're supporting people and candidates that I wouldn't necessarily support, you can't complain if you're not out there participating. And there's millions and millions of people, unfortunately, who are not going to be participating in this upcoming election. So for all of you that are and do, please try to drag some of those people along to the polls with you. Nothing is more important. And, you know, this is a very interesting time in our country. And I truly appreciate, no matter what side of the aisle or no matter what your politics are, if you give a shit enough to step out there and be a citizen, I personally appreciate you. So go out there and vote. Props to everybody who's doing so. And for those of you that are not and like to run your mouth on the sidelines, stay away from me.
Well, my heartbeat props tonight. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. And I'm going to give my heartbeat props to my mother. I am actually in Ohio now, visiting with her. She is very lively and spry, 85-year-old, and will be 86 in December. And being here the last few days has reminded me of everything that she's done for me throughout my life, how she's encouraged me, how she's reminded me on more than one occasion just how blessed I am to be able to do the things that I do every day. And more importantly, she just reminds me to stop and smell the roses sometimes and realize how fortunate that I am to be able to do some of the things that I do in my life and how much of a wonderful family I have. And so I want to thank you, Mom, for being you, for inspiring me, for inspiring the Holloway clan as a whole. I love you, and I know you don't watch this, and you may never see it unless I pull it out and put it in front of you, which I'm going to try to do at some point. But just want to say thank you for being you, Mom. I love you.
Mama
That's
Holloway, Mama
Yes.
Holloway, Mama Holloway.
Yes, yes. Well, Jonathan.
She has another son. She just doesn't know it.
Yeah, she knows it. She just doesn't. I don't think she's officially met you yet. So.
Nope.
Which is weird, but that's another story.
It is, but it's all good.
Well, thank you so much for all of your inputs. And this was definitely a take note episode. So hopefully everybody has taken notes and figures out what works for them, what ideas they want to run with and whatnot. And maybe one day we'll see people with Clyde, Lucious, or Lamar shirts out there. You know,
Well, that'll be dope.
right? Hashtag Lamar, hashtag
There.
Lucious, hashtag Clyde, right? We'll see. I just put it in the air. Let's see what happens. Gentlemen, have a great evening. Enjoy your weeks. Until next time, we'll think of more fun things to get enchained with.
Vote for Lamar.
Good night, guys.
When the lights come on, the road just get to running. When the lights come on, opponents smash the plumbing. Heard you like it warm, hot knife the butter. Truth pin them hard, knock them off that rebuttal. Tsunami, tidal wave to your puddle. Tough love, punch you in the arms, little brothers. Athletics, LLC, there's no others. Track and field's place to appeal to go further. Hey, Wally, Coyote, it's road runners. Feels like you know us, you've been with us the whole summer. If not for this quarantine, these four corners wouldn't be here, but we here, so start learning. You gotta earn your stripes, gotta get your scars. Show you how to fight, but show us who you are. You lack experience, but still you wanna talk. And who is actually talking to you? Circle's kinda small. Heads prevail when the backbone's strong. Gotta keep it coming, no, it won't last long. Pass and fail, then sell the sad song. And if you don't check yourself, then that's wrong. Just trying to give you the real that you asked for. So why you keep cutting us off to ask more? We put it in slow-mo, but you fast forward. Athletics, LLC, the task force.